Last time I did all the prototyping for my Arduino Energy Meter, and in this video I'm going to solder everything up onto boards and give it a test and get ready for the final, which will be building a box that has all of this for my 2-rig telescope system. Now what I'm trying to do here is figure out a way to mount these on boards so that I can make this all nice and neat. So basically I have 4 components. I've got the display, 2 of these boards, and the Arduino. The problem is that these already have their headers on, and desoldering it, I guess I could do that, but it's kind of a pain. This one has a mounting hole, but this one does not. And so what I think I'll do is something like this. I'll use this board, and then I will collect 5 volts here. I'll put it in line with the 5 volts. And then I will also collect voltage in and ground and put the pins like this. And then I think what I'll do is put this pin for most of these pins this way, like this, and I need to make sure that we don't have conflicts, but I need A0 and A1, which are over here, and then I need the 5 volt ground and VN over here, and then I'll 3D print a holder that can put these something like this, where I might have to put them like this or something else, and then where I can easily route the wires, and then I can use these female to female cables so that I don't have to solder as many wires onto the board. And then once that's done, I'll have some sort of a box like this, and then I'll put another box on top, or an integrated lid that holds this board here. And these also have header pins soldered on. They're kind of in the wrong direction, but if I give myself enough room, well, then I can do that, and then the whole thing will mount on as a single box. I mean, that's the idea. So some of this may change as I'm going through this process, but these are sort of awkward in that they don't, I tried to maybe solder them this way and then access the pins from the back. I thought about that, but then the header pins are so high. If you do this, whoops, then look how tall it gets, and then so it gets in the way. So I thought about putting them like this, and then I can do some wire management and then plug them in as they need to go. So I need about 4 ground pins. I need about 3 or 4 VNs and 2 5 volts. So I need to have some way of accessing them all. So I think I'll give this a try and see how it goes. All right, so what I've decided to do is I'm going to put these 2 little boards off to the side. This prototype needs some adjustment. So I have another one printing that slides down in there, and then I can mount them off to the side. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to solder these angled header pins on here, and then I'm going to collect the ground and the 5 volt. I think I only need 1 BN. Well, I'm going to leave myself some extra room here, and then I'm going to do all the header because I have some more projects I want to go with this box. I'm going to put a thermistor on here in the future, and maybe another way of doing something else. I'm basically going to be heating up the box. So I need a thermistor, and then I need another output to power a heater. But I'll do that later. So what I want to do is I want to leave myself enough wiggle room. So the first thing I'll do is solder on this maybe what I'll do is with the, I don't think it's going to get too hot because that's a long way to go. And here I'm soldering on the header pins for the Arduino. And then when I'm done with this, I need to bridge over about 1. So here I'm soldering the angled header pins on, and what I need to do here is get a little piece of tape and hold them vertical because I don't want to solder them at an angle. And then after I get it started, then I can remove the tape. Okay, I got the angle right. Now what I want to do, I need little jumpers or try and bridge. Let's see if I can bridge it. Here's what I'm talking about with bridging. So we've got the pins here for the header pins for the Arduino on the inside. And then I have other header pins that I have pointing out. So I need to bridge between the two of them. And so it's pretty hard to film. This is the after, and then I'll show you how I did it. But you take some solder and you solder here and you solder here, and then you take more solder and you work it between here. It's kind of a tedious process, but you can do it. And then I applied the same technique for the other header pins, which you'll see a little bit later in the video. And then I took a wire, this one was red, so that I made it very clear that that's the V in. And then this is ground, and you can see it's diving over and it comes into the ground. And then this would be the 5-volt pin. So we have headers here, here, and then on this side we have a screw terminal here. And so this allows me to do negative 5 volts V in, and then I can connect the inputs that I've already programmed, plus I have access to other pins, so when I upgrade the project I have other pins I can use input and output to do the heater box that I was telling you about. And that's why I put these angled pins on, so that I could just plug and chug and upgrade this project at any time. So here's that process sped up because it took a long time, and I'll work the solder between those two and bridge them, and then what I'll do is put the wires on a little bit later. So this took quite a bit of time. Alright, now this little part is a 3D printed part. I haven't cleaned out all of the filament there, but works like this. What I can do is I can slide these in like this. And then I can just go out to the shop and just, you know, drill a couple of holes, or I might even just glue it. And then I can have a way of holding these two boards. And because how this is going to work is probably going to be mounted, you know, like this. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to work out all the details. And then at the very, very front, I'm going to have a hole for the display, so that my battery box on the outside, you just see this. And then we mount these components someplace where you have some room. And then that's all there is to it. So I think I'm about ready to do the last step, which was I have a couple of options to do some screw terminals. Some of these can accept some, but you can't shove them all in there. So I'm going to work on that, and then a little bit, and I'll come back and turn the camera back on. So everything here is soldered up and ready to go. And you can see now that we have a positive power and energy, and I just plugged it in because here's this. The battery's almost at the top. That's why you see 13.5, because I already charged it. And then if we disconnect that, we're going to show that very tiny
offset error, that 0.05 amps, which is incorrect. That should be 0. And so a way to upgrade this would be to put a precision voltage reference, and maybe a high value, a precision voltage regulator, and then instead of using the 5 volts from the Arduino, because I measured it, and it's 4.991, and that slight error in the thousands is enough to throw this off, so it thinks it's discharging. The way I'm going to install this is that I'll have a window at the battery box like this that can be seen from the outside, and then I'll mount these two against the wall on the inside, and then to collect all of my power, I don't think I can get too many in that there, so I will use a bus bar, and then I'll put one final, I'll collect all my loads like you would in a circuit panel, and then I'll put one wire that collects all of the loads to here, and they'll go on one side of the meter, and then I've already got the ground wire here that would go to ground. And so we'll do that a little bit later. So what I'm going to do now is I have 6 plugs, and that's 3 for each telescope, so I can run 2 at the same time. And I'm going to take all of the positives and put them together, and all of the negatives and put them together, and put them into these terminal blocks. Now the other side of the terminal blocks, one end will come from the power supply, and then it will go through the meter on the other side. I'll show you how to do that. The first step is to strip off all the ends, and so they're all about the same length. And then I'll just repeat that for the other leg. Okay, I'll test each one of them to make sure they have power, but so far the continuity test is good. So we're going to take the negative side through the current sensor. Now all that's left to do is that we need to take the positives and tie them together, and then use a ring terminal to go to the battery, and do the same for the negative. So the heavy wire is the load, and the thin wire is the Arduino power, and it doesn't take very much at all because it's mostly just logic. And here's the final product. We have the 2 heavy wires that go to the battery, and those are connected with ring terminals like here. There's the negative, and here's the positive right here. And so this thin wire, that's for the Arduino power. And then you can see the current sensor right here, and that has now heavy wires going in and out. So that collects all of the power from the entire system. Here's the first test. I went out and I hooked up my telescope. I've got everything running. There's the mount. And we're currently cooling. So everything's running. And then let's look at our power. We're running about 10 watts. So that's about 0.76 amps. All right, that's great. So first test works. So now it's time to put this in a pretty box, and then I'm going to add a second battery so that I can do 2 rigs at the same time. Alright, stay tuned for next time where I'm going to be putting all of these into a nice box, a power bank, that I can carry around with a handle and have everything put together all nice and neat. And so I'll see you next time.